Hey folks, how you doing? Mike here again. I hope you're enjoying the event so far, and I'm thrilled to be spending a little more time with you and to speak loudly and at length about the power and potential of creativity, my favorite topic. Now, the conversation we're about to have, it's so vital, it's so valuable, it's so relevant and radical that it requires a little more of me. It requires a little more than me. It actually requires two of me. So I brought myself along to help me help you. I'm not just over here, I'm out there in the comments thread too. Say hi, me too. There I am. You all good, me? Excellent. I just want to make this session as valuable as it can be. So while I'm here, I'm also out there ready to answer any questions you might have, to add any links or follow any tangents that might arise. I want this to be more than a presentation, but a practical representation of what's possible when we're courageous enough to bring a little more creativity in the way we show up. So over the last few years in my work as a speaker, an executive advisor and learning designer, I've asked hundreds of leaders and teams to describe what comes to mind when they first hear the word creativity. They always say things like fun, freedom, happiness, letting go, living life on my own terms, challenging the status quo. And I ask them to describe their relationship with creativity, and they'll often say tortured, love, hate, long distance, frayed. It's something I love, but I don't prioritize. It's the thing that brings me the most joy, but I always seem to suppress it to get the job done. And whenever I do that, I'm never satisfied with the work or who I've become. Excuse me, does that resonate? So then I ask them to define their company's relationship with creativity. They'll almost always say non-existent, complicated, delusional, misunderstood. They wouldn't know it if they saw it or trust it if they could. They might talk about its legitimacy, but ultimately they wind up suffocating it in process and bureaucracy. And this one's my favorite. This is a real quote. They know the traditional path won't get us where we need to go. But there's this dominant, well-established operating model that's supported by people at all levels of the organization who primarily value safety and certainty. And here we see the dysfunctional love triangle that exists between us, between business, and creativity. We love it. We value it. We want more of it in our work, but we can't seem to find the time or the resources to give to it. And despite our company calling for more innovative thinking, the systems and processes that hold most businesses together don't allow or encourage anything like it. In one of the largest ever studies done on creativity, Adobe found that 75% of us feel as though we're not living up to our creative potential. But 80% feel like we need to because our work is changing, but our company, despite calls for more out-of-the-box thinking, still values productivity over creativity. Essentially, 3/4 of us just don't feel creative enough, but we know we need to be, but our company still values getting things done over doing things differently. And this, my friends, is a recipe for irrelevance. This is a one-way ticket to obsolescence. This is not okay. And we know it. We don't need the World Economic Forum to tell us that 9 out of 10 of the most important skills in the next decade are closely related to creativity. We don't need McKinsey to tell us that creative companies outperform their competitors in both growth and shareholder return. We don't need someone else to tell us creativity is now the strongest currency, although the Foundation for Young Australians did find that those of us with creative in their job title tend to enjoy a $3,129 boost in their annual income. So you might want to update your LinkedIn profile while you can. Sneak creative in there, get some of that cash. Creativity matters more than ever. We can see it. We feel it in our bones. But how did we get here? How did we get so far from it? Because when we look at our kids, there doesn't seem to be any default in their capacity for dreaming. Doesn't seem to be an inefficiency when it comes to experimenting or performing or play. One of the most talked about studies in this particular domain was by a guy called George Land. Have you heard of him? Cool guy. He found that 98% of 5-year-olds have roughly the same creative capacity as the geniuses who put us on the moon in the 60s. But as we age and we're shaped and influenced by the world, we lose our ability to think differently. And by the time we're 30 years of age, less than 2% of us remain creative like those geniuses at NASA. George went on to say, the research is conclusive. Non-creative behavior is learned. Non-creative behavior. See, we're all born creative. It's what we're designed to do. But the world we inherited has diminished or diluted our ability to use it. And yet, if we look back on the madness of the last few months, when we're confined to our home as a result of the pandemic, one of the first things to emerge when we had just a little more time, just a little more space, was creativity. From sourdough to Lego to making TikTok videos, from shifting everything to Zoom and finally renovating the spare room, it came back rapidly, it came back effortlessly, which tells me we don't have a creativity crisis. We have an identity crisis. We're not struggling against a lack of creative desire or talent. We're suffocating beneath a misguided story. We're drowning in a dangerous delusion that we're not who we naturally are and don't have what we've naturally got. We're adrift in a sea of lies about who we are and what we think we're capable of. Does that resonate? Look, if we're going to find our way back to our wild, untamed self-expression, if we're going to infuse it into every pocket of our personal and professional lives, we need to address the root cause. We've got to head straight to the source. We got to look at the story we tell ourselves about ourselves. Now, beyond what you put on your LinkedIn profile, I'm asking you right now, how creative do you really believe you are? Because chances are you're wrong about it. You're underselling yourself. You have no idea what you're creatively capable of. The magic you're sitting on. And this is why most creativity doesn't work or doesn't last. Creativity training. It doesn't penetrate the skin. It dances around the surface. It posturing with post-it notes or word association exercises. And don't forget to quote Einstein and Steve Jobs. You can do all the creative training in the world, but unless you address the story you have about your own creative potential, it's just a band-aid on a wound that's struck an artery. Excuse me. How effective do you really think that'll be? So let's just take a moment now. Let's have a really good look at who we think we are and how creative we believe we are. You up for that? Other me, you still out there doing your work? Now, in all my work with executives and entrepreneurs, I found we usually end up identifying ourselves as one of 6 creative archetypes. Now, there's no right or wrong here. There's no better or worse. They're just different styles. It's not a hierarchy. It's more of a spectrum. So when I articulate each different archetype, try to find and feel out where you sit. Which type resonates the most with where you are now? You do that? You on board for this adventure? Excellent. You're all so fabulous. I'm loving it. So the first kind of creative we call the never was. These beautiful people are by far the most deluded. Now, despite the science, despite their own experience, these folks wholeheartedly believe they're not creative and they never were. They're the ones that say, oh, I haven't got a creative bone in my body. Maybe they grew up in an environment that didn't allow or encourage self-expression. Or maybe their parents labelled their sister the creative one while they were repeatedly told, you're more the left brain logical one. Whatever the conditions, the outcome was the same. They unconsciously chose a career and a life that reflects and reaffirms this underlying yet entirely untrue belief that they're not creative and they never were. And at once, they're robbed of the infinite possibilities that exist at their fingertips. Tragic. Now, the second kind of creatives are the used-to-bes. They're by far the most heartbroken and heartbreaking. The used-to-be creatives all share a scar. At some point early on in their life, they were laughed at or mocked. They were ridiculed or reprimanded just for expressing themselves. They were cut so deep in a moment of pure vulnerability that it became too painful to do anything like it again. I'm out. They were told creativity wouldn't lead them anywhere. They should get a real job. And like a good son or student, a good niece or neighbour, they put away the paintbrush for good. Now, never was and used to be's believed that creativity, it's something others do. It's something they were never or are no longer allowed to enjoy or experience its benefits. Can you relate to that? Do you see yourself there? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear it. Maybe you're not there. Maybe you're a kind of sort of creative. The fence sitter, the well-meaning hesitator. You might have played a little piano in school, indulged in a pottery class once a year. You just don't proactively seek or cultivate opportunities to be creative. It's more like a byproduct, happy accident, serendipitous gift. There's a fire in there somewhere, but you're waiting for someone else to fan the flames. I get it. That could be you, or maybe not. Maybe you're a love-to-be. A love-to-be creatives. They love to be creative. They value it. They honor it. They often go on and on and on about it. They give it so much significance that they end up over-engineering the whole experience. They start thinking they need the perfect time, they need the perfect place, they need the perfect life to then create. But they'll make creativity into such a thing that requires so much stuff. It's got to be polished and perfect. It just gets too much. And when that happens, it's easy to push back to another day, to another week, to another year. Are you a love-to-be, or are you a natural born? You know, these types. These fortunate fools who are gifted the tools to make magic with just about anything they touch. For these fabulous peeps, it all just comes so easily. Even their handwriting is creative. But when it comes so effortlessly, it's easy to take it for granted. And without a disciplined practice, it can end up lying dormant. It can fade. Their life and career can become a sea of unfinished projects and unfulfilled intentions. This astonishing potential can just waste away. But there's one more identity, and it's the one I want you to be. It's the one that's surprisingly accessible, that's instantly available, and delivers an astonishing return. It's the one I wrote a book about. It's the book that's available now. The book I want you to check out. Hey, me, can you throw up a link to the book website? I want to give these people a way that they can buy it. Thanks, me. So the type of creative that we really want to be is the everyday creative. For these fabulous folks, creativity is not a talent, it's a habit. It's not a gift, it's a practice. It's not exclusive to any particular person or career, industry or task. It's a way of seeing and being in the world, a way of enjoying the ongoing discovery of who you are and what you're capable of every single day. Sure, they might have a little baggage. They might second guess themselves from time to time. Who doesn't? They too worry about sharing an untested idea, but they do it anyway. They've made it their mission to bring their self-expression every single day in the smallest and largest of ways. They recognize that creativity can be applied anywhere, anytime, by anyone. From what you wear to what you cook, from the meeting you ran to the path you took, from the office to the airport, it's all a blank canvas and it's begging to be made into a work of art. An everyday creative understands that creativity is not something we do. It's something we are. It's a choice we make over and over and over again, to trust that little whisper of an idea, to speak up and share our stuff, to listen for and follow what feels good to you, what feels different or exciting or terrifying or inspiring to you. It's not your fault if you don't feel like an everyday creative right now, but it is your responsibility to do something about it, because the world right now is being reshaped by the people who are brave enough to throw up their hand and say, hey, I'm here to play. I'm here to be creative, to think differently, to give it a crack every single day in the smallest and largest of ways. That's how I ended up writing this book. That's how I ended up speaking to you. That's how I built a career doing what I do. It's bizarre. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and I'm just so full of gratitude, not just for creativity, but for you momentarily joining me in this glorious creative journey. Thank you all so much for listening. Your presence is just so precious to me, which is why I work so hard to bring unique value to you. I hope this gave you a taste of what lies in wait for you when you decide to make creativity part of your everyday life. Now go and grab a copy of this book. Let me know what you thought. If you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Here's my email, giving it to you. Enjoy the rest of the event. I can't wait to see the magic you're about to make. My name is Mykel Dixon, and I'll see you next time, team.